I am live. I'm reading out of Eyes of Horus. I'm almost at the end of this very interesting book, which is a book written by Joan Marshall Grants, published 1942. And it is a book about her life as Ra-A, and she was an heir. She was male and an heir to the nomarch of the Oryx. She grows up in a corrupt Egypt, or he grows up in a corrupt Egypt, and he is dedicated to breaking the rule of fear and lifting the shadows of lust, greed and cruelty from Egypt. So he leads the Eyes of Horus into battle against the old regime and its evil priests. It's a very exciting novel. We are here now in part 6, and we're coming to the end of it. This chapter is entitled Dawn over Egypt. I was still watching the now distant torches of the funeral procession when Sebek's voice broke the thread of my thoughts. I've had Hanuk's tent pitched beside your own, just beyond the enclosure. I thought you would both wish for privacy, and yet to be near the wounded. Pata'aru is waiting to dress your arm again. I put up my uninjured hand to find that blood had soaked through the bandages. Is there anything else I ought to do? Have messengers been sent to Amamed? Is everything being done for the men? There's nothing else you need to worry about. Everything is being attended to. I wonder how long it will be before the news of our victory reaches Pharaoh. In a few hours, for soon after the battle was joined, a messenger arrived from him to say he had left the summer palace and was now at the house of one of the nomarchs, not far from to the north of the royal city. Our message by relays of runners will reach him by dawn. Ask Menehet's captain if he agrees that the dead, both his and our own, shall be buried in this field. They are all warriors of Egypt, who have died to bring us peace. I swayed on my feet, and Sebek put out his hand to steady me. Ra-A, all that shall be done, but you've got to go and rest now. It was good to be able to lie down and let Kias help Pata'aru to put a fresh dressing on my arm. Some of the stitches had broken, and the new ones seemed to hurt much more than the first ones had done. I was so tired that the pain, though I kept on telling myself it wasn't really bad pain, was almost unbearable. Kias was holding my hand, and suddenly it seemed as though we had both become children again, and that I was trying to comfort her while a deep cut on her knee was being washed by Nihamim. Then someone, I think it was Kias, was making me drink spoonfuls of broth which smelled of poppies. I protested. You mustn't give me sleep drink. There must be something I have to do, and I can't think properly when I'm drowsy. I will make you think all the more clearly tomorrow, said Pata'aru. All right, if you're sure, it will. Far away I heard Kias saying anxiously, He's very cold. Shall I get a hot stone to put at his feet? No, 2 extra wooden covers will be enough. I felt them being tucked around me, but I was too lazy to open my eyes. You're sure he's not going to die? Quite sure. He's lost a lot of blood, but he's young and will soon heal. I'll tell his servant to stay just outside the tent so that he can hear if Ra-A moves. I'll be with Hanuk, but I'll hear if I'm called. You ought to rest, Pata'aru. You look very tired. Don't worry about me. Pata is a most considerate master to his servants. You look after your husband and your brother, and send for me at once if either of them needs me again. I heard them both go out of the tent. Pain was a small black boat drifting further away from me on the side of the sleep drink. I could still see it, but it didn't really matter anymore. Perhaps Miri is in much worse pain than I. The last message from her said our child wasn't going to be born yet, not until I got home. Funny, she should have been wrong about the time. She seemed so sure. Very soon I shall be home with her. I stretched out my left arm and tried to pretend she was lying beside me with her head on my shoulder. Mary, my heart, my love. I was caught in a nightmare. I was trying to staunch the wounds of the man I had killed, while the women who loved them stood by in silence and in tears, mothers and wives, sisters and children, all weeping because I had killed their men. I tried to wake myself, and suddenly I had slipped into a safe, happy dream. Mary had come back to me. She was lying with her head on my shoulder, just as I had imagined. I said firmly, I mustn't let myself wake. If I do, I shall be alone in a tent with pain instead of being happy with Mary. Don't wake me up, or Mary will go away. Don't wake up. You are awake, my very dear, and I am still with you. I'm never going to let us be parted any more. No, Mary, you mustn't let me wake up. You are in the Oryx, and I'm in a tent outside the royal city. But I'll be coming home very soon, because Manhat is dead. I know, my love, but I'm not in the Oryx. I'm here in the tent, beside you. I'm not only a dream, Mary. I'm my own here, self as well. Do dream kisses feel as real as these? Suddenly I realized I was awake and Mary was lying beside me. Yet I was dazed by the poppy drink and said, You oughtn't to have made the journey. Oh, my love, I'm so glad to see you. It has been so lonely without you. But what would have happened to you if the child had been born on the journey? She took my hand and ran it down her body. I was bewildered. I don't understand. The message which reached me 2 days ago said he wasn't ready to be born yet. That was the only lie I've ever told you, and I don't expect I'll ever have to tell you another. Your son is 8 days old. I found I was much better at having a baby than I thought I'd be, and in 4 days I found travelling in a litter much more enjoyable than staying in bed. Niam grumbled a good deal when I said I was bringing him to you. She seemed to think he's as much hers as mine. You brought him here? Yes, he's in Sebek's tent with Niam. No man ever had such a beautiful and bewildering wife. You bear me a son, and long before any other woman would think of leaving her bed, you set off on a long journey without even being sure of your destination. Is he all right? Does he like his foster mothers? He didn't have the chance to find out. I think your father was rather shocked. Anyway, he tried to explain to me that the wives of nobles were too delicate to feed their children. I told him that nobles' women were being different to other women was just another of the silly ideas which the Watchers have got to stop people believing in. He must have approved of his grandson, even if he was cross with me, for when he found that he couldn't make me change my mind about coming to you, he sent his own litter-bearers with me, and his own bodyguard. He gave me an important message for you. Tell Rahab that his son is the young Oryx. He'll understand what I mean. It means that we are the Nomarch. Rahab, I love you so much. Your shoulder must be hurting too badly for you to be able to enjoy all these lovely things which are happening to you. We are together, and that will always be so much more important than anything else. You have a son. You are the Nomarch of the Oryx, and because of your victory, thousands of other men and women will be able to be happy together and have specially lovely children who are born of love. Would you like to see your son now, or wait until the morning? I knew she wanted me to say I was impatient for my first sight of him, so I said, See if you can borrow him from Niam. I wouldn't dare to try. I'd rather take its cup away from a leopard. Mary stood up, naked and very beautiful. Oh, Rahab, it is so wonderful to be in nice shape again, but having a baby is well worth the trouble. We'll have some more later on. She put on my cloak and went out of the tent. I heard my son before I saw him. He was protesting vigorously at being awakened in the middle of the night. Mary held him in the crook of her left arm while she lit a second wick in the lamp. My son continued to express his annoyance, although his mother tried to reason with him. I do think it's tiresome of you to be so cross. It makes you look so crumpled, and you're really very handsome when you are good. Gradually, the yells faded to a whimper and then ceased. Mary put him down beside me. He looked much the same as any other baby, yet I felt ridiculously proud of him. Niam says he looks exactly like you, said Mary, as though paying me a supreme compliment. The young oryx stared at me. For a moment his eyes looked very wise, as though he was trying to tell me something. I think he knows he's a long friend of ours, I said. Of course he does, and we'll show him that it can be very nice to be born, even if one's still a child. We shall make him very happy, so that he will be a wise Normag when his turn comes to rule the oryx. Mary, we have worked so long for the dawn, yet it is only the beginning of the day in which we of the horizon shall see peace over Egypt. Then Mary lay down beside me to sleep between two who had loved her down the centuries. The next day I found myself extraordinarily willing to be obedient to Mary and Pataaru, to doze and on waking to take the broth, the raw eggs and wine which were given to me. At dusk Sebek brought me the long-awaited message from Pharaoh. The North has proclaimed Amenemhet to be the only rightful wearer of the double crown. 70 days feasting has been declared, and in 3 days he will make his triumphal entry into the royal city. He sends greetings to you, calling you his most beloved servant and brother in Horus. To honor the oryx and Rodan, to whom he has given the official title of the Lord of the Horizon, he will make a royal progress through our nome. There is to bestow honors upon you and also upon those others who have seen peace born of their wisdom brought to Egypt. Pharaoh further decrees that you are to be the sole judge of those who followed Menhet, saying that whatever you decree shall be as though he had set it above his own seal. At dawn next morning, nearly 3,000 of Menhet's followers were ranked on the field of Hathor. They were in ceremonial dress, the leaders of hundreds, in front of their men, and in front of them again the captains, each with a standard-bearer beside him. Where Menhet would have stood was the captain of the royal bodyguard. Many of them must have been thinking that this would be the last time they would be allowed their panoply. The man they had called Pharaoh was dead. Now he against whom they had rebelled was in authority. They must have expected to be sent into exile or to labour in the quarries, even if they were not sentenced to death. Would they be given the honours of war or be treated as rebels? They must all have known that rebels did not die an easy death, yet all of them were calm and proud, for they were true Egyptians. I stood between Mary and Hanok, and beside him was Kias. Behind us were the standard-bearers of the 3 gnomes who had vanquished the power of a dynasty. Then did I speak to them. Look to the horizon, O men of Egypt, and see the dawn is come. The shadows of yesterday are forgotten, for Ra has returned into his majesty, and there is peace throughout the 2 lands. We are no longer enemies, for together we have done honour to Menhet the warrior, and together we have sent fear, our common enemy, into exile. Long have the crook and flail been a sign of tyranny. Now in the hands of Amenemhet, they have become the symbol of kinship with the gods. The flail is no longer a sign of opposition, nor shall it be echoed by whipmen in any nome. Today the order has gone forth that there are no longer slaves in Egypt. Power has been taken from the hands of the oppressors, and authority has become a wise counselor to befriend those under his protection. The people of the villages shall go to the headman as to a father, and the word overseer shall become the title of a friend. No longer shall Egypt pay tribute to the gods of fear, for the peace of Ra has returned. The statues of Set and Sekhmet have been overthrown, and no blood sacrifice shall be made on any altar, neither in the north nor in the south. No man shall be called upon to give more than his just tribute of the 10th part, of which not an ear of wheat nor a grain of gold dust shall swell the private treasures of any man. All that is given by the people of Egypt shall be shared amongst them for their common welfare, and during the lean years there shall be no famine. No one shall go hungry or be without shelter. In sickness they will be cared for in the temples, nor shall they be without a friend during their lifetime. I call upon you, who love Egypt, to join with me in freedom, to keep the two lands forever safe from fear. You have shown yourself to be mighty warriors. The foreigners shall hear of you, and the cruel, the greedy, and the jealous hearted. They are your enemies, and it is your strength which shall protect your people from them. I do not demand allegiance from you. I set you free of all loyalties which your mouth has spoken of, and of which your heart is now unsure. If you do not wish to stay with us to live for Egypt, return to your homes, free men, to dwell in Egypt, whom other men protect. Those who wish to stay, keep ranks. Those who wish to go, depart, to dwell in the peace we made. Not a man moved. Then a great shout echoed along the ranks, rolled like a wave to cleanse the land from fear. Amma Mehmet, Pharaoh is born again. Pharaoh is born, and we are his bodyguard. One by one, the captains of the leaders of hundreds came forward to make their oath of fealty to me in Pharaoh's name. Then they, who had been our enemies, wheeled and took the road back to the royal city to wait for Pharaoh to return to them. So that was the end of Eyes of Horus, 3,500 years BC. Have a good Monday.